our ever-loving Father, the core of every reason, the source of truth. You who made the earth and the heavens are the ultimate goal of every knowledge seekers, the infinite wisdom, the cause of all that is good. We are truly grateful for this opportunity to gather together as a community despite the challenges we face each day. Yet you remained and gave us strength to carry on the responsibilities of bearing intelligence and using them for better purposes. We now humbly ask you to join us in our endeavor to explore the wonders of life in the world for knowledge's sake, that in whatever we learn today, we become more grounded to you, who is truth, who is love. We pray that you bless our speakers, the fount of your infinite knowledge, that they can share something worthwhile despite the limited time we have. They can channel all they know and share to us the beauty and truth of living as your child. We pray that you guide our participants, the seekers of your boundless knowledge, that they may continue to persevere in the search and be deemed worthy to share what they learn from today's session. Sanctify us, O Lord, not because we are worthy of it, but because we believe in your love and mercy, that at the end of the day, we can take home something that's amazing and meaningful. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, helas ng sinakalan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manluluping, di ka pasisingil, sa gagatak tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihingi, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay di magtitingin. Luman ang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga aking, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. St. Joseph College, or else to thee, we love thee, our alma mater. To thee we give our hearts and all, to thee we dedicate our songs. Our beloved alma mater, hail to thee, we'll remember you wherever we'll be, to thy teachings now and forever. We will be loyal, we'll be loyal. To thee we shall live, and for thy honor we shall die. Our beloved alma mater, hail to thee, we'll remember you wherever we'll be, to thy teachings now and forever. We will be loyal, we'll be loyal. To thee we shall live, and for thy honor we shall die.
Hello again, guys. Now let us first do some recap about the first part of the bank reconciliation, held by body number 22 last October 5. The recap will be done by Mr. Michael Hida, so please do welcome him with a round of virtual applause.
So, good evening, sophomores. Please bear with me since I will just repeat the main points. Rest assured that it will only take a few minutes. Moving on, so let me start in this way. When we say bank deposits, it consists of money. It consists of money placed into banking institution for safekeeping. There are three types of deposits: demand deposit, saving deposit, and time deposit. The importance of demand deposit are: first, consumer spending; second is bank reserves; and third is money supply. So what is bank reconciliation? Bank reconciliation is a statement which brings into agreement the cash balance per bank and cash balance per book and cash balance per bank. The reconciliation is usually prepared monthly because the bank provides the depositor with the bank statement at the end of every month. Now let's proceed to reconciling items. There are two reconciling items: book reconciling items and bank reconciling items. Credit memos, debit memos, and errors are reconciling items for book, while deposits in transit and outstanding checks and errors are reconciling items for bank. Next is the forms of bank reconciliation. The forms of bank reconciliation are: first is adjusted balance method. What is adjusted balance method? It is the book balance and the bank balance are brought to a correct cash balance that must appear on the balance sheet. Second is the book to bank method. Book to bank method is the book balance is reconciled with the bank balance, or the book balance is adjusted to equal the bank balance. Then the last is the bank to book method. Bank to book method is the bank balance is reconciled with the book balance, or the bank balance is adjusted to equal the book balance. Since it is a recap, I will not explain further, for it was already discussed in the part 1 of bank reconciliation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hida, for the recap, which surely helped the sophomores to recall some information. This time, let us please welcome Ms. Saisley Briar-Rose Dumalay. She will discuss the book-to-bank and bank-to-book methods, since the first part of the webinar ended with the adjusted balance method. A round of virtual applause, please.
So, good evening, JPNs. I am Saisley Briar-Rose Dumalay, and I am in charge of discussing the theories for the book-to-bank method and bank-to-book method. My discussion also includes the treatment for each reconciling items and the explanation of reversal rule. So to start off, let us first know what is book-to-bank method. So book-to-bank reconciliation compares bank reported balances in the bank statement against the system's general ledger bank balance for a specified fiscal period. So now let us proceed to the formula. So it started with the book balance and ends with the bank balance. So first we have the book balance, then we will add the credit memos and outstanding checks. Then we will get the total. Next, we will deduct the debit memos and deposit in transit. Now we have the bank balance. Now let us see the treatment of each items. So when the reconciliation starts with the book balance and ends with the bank balance, the usual book reconciling items are treated in the same manner as they are treated in the adjusted balance method. That is, the credit memos are added and the debit memos are deducted. However, with respect to the bank reconciling items, the treatment is simply reversed. Thus, since deposit in transit are added to the bank balance, it is now deducted from the book balance. And since the outstanding checks are deducted from the bank balance, it is now added to the book balance. Now, next we need to know the explanation of the reversal rule. So the book balance is adjusted to equal the bank balance. So the deposit in transit already increased the book balance, but have no effect to the bank balance because the deposit in transit are not yet recorded by the bank. So as we can recall, sa previous part sa bank record, ang kaning deposit in transits are collections that are recorded by the depositor but not yet reflected in the bank statement. Consequently, the book balance is overstated in relation to the bank balance. Hence, deposit in transit are deducted from the book balance, following the book to bank method. Next is the outstanding checks. So, on the other hand, outstanding checks are already decreased the book balance but have no effect on the bank balance because the checks are not yet paid by the bank. So as a result, the book balance is understated in relation to the bank balance. Therefore, the outstanding checks are added to the book balance following the book-to-bank method. Next up is the bank-to-book method. So let us know what it is. So bank-to-book method begins with the bank's balance according to the most recent statement, compares it to a company's or individual's records, and adjusts it accordingly in terms of deposits, checks, or other withdrawals. Now let us proceed to the formula. So bank-to-book method. So it starts with the bank balance and ends with the book balance. So first we have the bank balance. Add the deposit in transit and debit memos. Now we have the total. Then we will deduct the outstanding checks and credit memos. Now we will have the book balance. Now let's proceed to the treatment for each items. So when the reconciliation starts with the bank balance and ends with the book balance, the usual bank reconciling items are treated in the same manner as they are treated in the adjusted balance method. That is, the deposit in transit are added and outstanding checks are deducted. Next, however, the book reconciling items are treated or simply reversed. So, thus, since the credit memos are added in the book balance, they are now deducted from the bank balance. And since the debit memos are deducted from the book balance, they are now added to the bank balance. Now let us proceed to the explanation of the reversal rule. So nga naman nga gi-reverse ang treatment sa book reconciling items. So the bank balance is adjusted to equal the book balance. So the debit memos already decreased the bank balance, but it doesn't have an effect to the book balance because they are not yet recorded by the depositor. Consequently, the bank balance is understated in relation to the book balance. Now, the credit memos, on the other hand, already increased the bank balance, but have no effect on the book balance because they are not yet recorded by the depositor. So, Thus, the bank balance is overstated in relation to the book balance. Therefore, the credit memos are deducted from the bank balance, and the debit memos are added to the bank balance, from the bank balance. So, that's it for my part. I hope that I have discussed it well. Now I will give the floor back to Ms. Mara for the icebreaker. Let us continue for the next part. This will be discussed by Ms. Mara Isaga. Let us give her a round of applause.
So, hello guys. My topic is the general procedures in preparing the reconciliation. So basically, these are the steps you will follow in order to, while preparing the reconciliation items. So first step is to determine the balances per book and per bank. So literally, this only means you only have to find the balances in the book of the depositor and the bank statement. So we have here the book of the depositor. So we are going to get the balance per book here. So please take a look at the T account in the lower section. We have a debit of cash receipts of 150,000 pesos and a credit of cash disbursements of 100,000 pesos. So we have to deduct the 100,000 pesos of cash disbursement from the 150,000 pesos of cash receipts. So the equivalent for this is a debit of 50,000 pesos. So why nga nung debit man? So debit siya because the debit side of cash receipts is bigger than the credit side of cash disbursement. And for the bank statement, please take a look sa deposit na column. So on January 6, we have 60,000 pesos deposit and a balance of 60,000 pesos. On January 8, we have a withdrawal of 5,000 pesos, which will be deducted from the 60,000 pesos balance. The new balance is now 55,000 pesos. Next is on January 11, we have another withdrawal of 10,000 pesos, which is also deducted from the 55,000 pesos balance. Now the new balance is 45,000 pesos. And on January 12, there is another withdrawal of 18,000 pesos, which is again deducted from the 45,000 pesos balance. The new balance now is the 27,000 pesos. On January 14, we have a deposit of 20,000 pesos. This will be added to the 27,000 pesos balance. That resulted to the new balance of 47,000 pesos. On January 17, there is another withdrawal of 2,000 pesos. This will be deducted from the 47,000 pesos balance, which resulted to 45,000 pesos balance. On January 26, we have another deposit of 30,000 pesos which will be deducted from 45,000 pesos balance, and the new balance is now 75,000 pesos. On the same date, we also have a credit memo of 15,000 pesos. This 15,000 pesos is actually a note collected by the bank in favor of the company. This will be added to the 75,000 pesos balance. That resulted to the new balance of 90,000 pesos. On January 30, we have a return check of 5,000 pesos, which is returned by the bank to the customer due to no sufficient fund. This is deducted from the 90,000 balance, which resulted to 85,000 pesos balance. On the same day, we also have a service charge of 1,000 pesos, which is also deducted from the 85,000 pesos. And the balance per per bank is now 84,000 pesos. Now for the next step, we have traced the cash receipts to the bank statement to ascertain whether there are deposits not yet acknowledged by the bank. So, ang ato rin tanawon diri is ang cash receipts anja ato ta sa bank statement. Atong tanawon dito sa kaning diri sa deposits na column. So, here in the book of the depositor, please take a look sa cash receipts nga side. So, on January 5, we have a 60,000 pesos cash receipts. In the bank statement, it is reflected and acknowledged by the bank on January 6 as a deposit. And on January 13, we also have another cash receipts of 20,000 pesos. This is acknowledged by the bank in the bank statement on January 14 with a deposit of 20,000 pesos. On January 25, we have a 30,000 pesos cash receipts. This is also acknowledged by the bank on January 26. However, on January 31 cash receipts of 40,000 pesos, this is not reflected or acknowledged by the bank in the bank statement. So, this cash receipts is called the deposit in transit. Since gideposit man siya sa customer sa bank, however, wala man siya na-acknowledge ni bank. Now, let us go to step 3. So, trace the checks issued to the bank statement to ascertain whether there are checks not yet presented for payment. So, now, same rin is just sa cash receipts. However, ang ato rin tanawon diri is ang mga gi-issue nga checks kung na-present ba siya dito sa bank statement by the bank. So, again, diri na punta sa Book of the Depositor sa cash disbursements. So, check number 721 of 5,000 pesos, it is reflected in the bank statement on January 8. The check number 722 is 10,000 cash disbursement, which is acknowledged by the bank on January 11. Please take a look sa withdrawal na column. And then, the check number 723 of 18,000 pesos cash disbursement is also reflected on January 12. And the check number 724 of 2,000 pesos cash disbursement is also reflected on January 17. However, checks 725 of 37,000 pesos and checks 726 of 28,000 pesos are both not reflected sa bank statement. As you can see sa withdrawal nga kanang column. So, these two checks nga wala gi kanang na-acknowledge dito sa bank statement as for payment, which is ang check 725 and 726, these are called the outstanding checks. Since mga checks man ni sila nga wala gi-acknowledge sa bank for payment. Now, for the bank statement, for the step 4, the bank statement should be examined to determine whether there are bank credits or bank debits not yet recorded by the depositor. So, bank credits are credit memos and bank debits are debit memos. As you can see sa bank statement sa lower part, natay mga data nga gathered in connection with the credit memo and debit memo appearing on the bank statement. So, ang first na gathered data is kaning credit memo of 15,000 pesos on January 26 that represents proceeds of note collected by the bank in favor of the company. And another one is the return check of 5,000 pesos which represents check of customer deposited previously but returned by the bank because of no sufficient fund or NSF. The last one is to watch out for errors. Again, errors are reconciling items of the party which committed them. So, ang injured yung hinumduman sa errors is kanang kung kinsay nakakamit ay nga itong error, dito ni mo siya i-reconcile. After reconciling all the items, we are now going to adjust the balance. So here is the adjusted balance method. For the adjusted book balance formula, we have here balance per book plus credit memos equals total minus debit memos equals adjusted book balance. And now we are going to compute for the book of the depositor. Sa balance per book, we have 50,000 pesos. Add the credit memo of note collected by the bank of 15,000 pesos, which total to 65,000 pesos. Less the NSF customer check of 5,000 pesos and the service charge of 1,000 pesos, which equals to 6,000 pesos. This will be deducted from the 65,000 pesos. The total of this will lead us to the adjusted book balance of 59,000 pesos. As you can remember, ang atong previous nga balance sa book is 50,000 pesos before reconciling the item. After reconciling the items, the new or the adjusted book balance is now 59,000 pesos. For the formula of the adjusted bank balance, we have balance per bank plus deposit in transit equals the total minus outstanding checks equals the adjusted bank balance. Now let us compute for the adjusted bank balance sa bank statement. So we have a balance per bank of 84,000 pesos. Add the deposit in transit of 40,000 pesos, which equals to 124,000 pesos. Less the outstanding checks of the check number 725, which has the 37,000 pesos, and check 726 of 28,000 pesos. Add both, this will equal to 65,000 pesos. The 65,000 pesos will be deducted from the 124,000 pesos. This will lead us to the adjusted bank balance of 59,000 pesos. So, ang previous nga balance na to, before reconciling the items, is 84,000 pesos. And now, the adjusted bank balance is 59,000 pesos. So, as you can see, ang atong mga balances from adjusted book balance o bank balance nga adjusted is the same, 59,000 pesos. Now, let us go over sa preparation of adjusting entries. So, remember ani nila, only the book reconciling items require adjusting entries on the book of the depositor. The adjustments are necessary to bring the cash in bank balance to its correct balance for statement presentation purposes. In the preparation of the adjustments, an item added to the bank is debited to the cash, and an item deducted from the book is credited to the cash. So here is the adjusting entries. So first, we have to record the note collected by the bank. So debit of cash in bank of 15,000 pesos and notes receivable credit of 15,000 pesos. So the cash in bank is debited because the payment of the notes payable is collected by the bank, which resulted to an increase of cash balance. The notes receivable, on the other hand, is credited because it is already collected by the bank. The next one is to record the NSF or no sufficient fund customer check. The accounts receivable of 5,000 pesos is debited and the cash in bank of 5,000 pesos is credited. So the accounts receivable is debited because, or which represents the NSF customer checks to be received that was returned by the bank due to insufficiency of funds. The cash in bank is credited because the check is returned, which resulted a decrease of the cash balance. The last one is to record the bank service charge. A debit of bank service charge of 1,000 pesos and the cash in bank of 1,000 pesos is credited. The bank service charge is debited since it deducted the cash balance of the company. Bank service charge is a form of payment of the company to the bank. Cash in bank is credited for there is a decrease of the cash balance of the company due to the payment of bank service charge. That would be all for my report. Thank you so much for listening. Now for the book to bank and bank to book method of the illustration I used, Let us welcome again Mr. Hida for the discussion. After that, he will also discuss the sum errors and their corrections. A round of virtual applause, please.
Good evening, sophomores. So, my task here is to discuss the illustration using the book-to-bank and bank-to-book method. So, let's start with the book-to-bank method. So, we have here the balance per book, which is 50,000. Then, we will add the note collected, which is a credit memo amounting 15,000. Since this is a book-to-bank method, the treatment for the bank reconciling items will simply reverse. So we will also add the outstanding checks number 725 amounting 37,000 and outstanding check number 726 amounting 28,000. The total outstanding checks will be 65,000. Then the outstanding checks are also added because the book balance is understated in relation to the bank balance. So 50,000 plus 15,000 plus 65, we will have a total of 130,000. Then we will deduct the debit memos, which are the NSF checks amounting 5,000 and service charge amounting 1,000. Then the deposit in transit amounting 40,000 will also be deducted because it overstates the book balance in relation to the bank balance. So 50,000, so 5,000 plus 1,000 plus 40,000 is equal to 46,000. Then 130,000 less than of 46,000, so mading nakakamap tag balance per bank nga 84,000. Then let's proceed to bank to book method. This method starts with the balance per bank, which is 84,000. Then we will add deposit in transit amounting 40,000. The bank reconciling items will be treated reversely. That is the NSF checks amounting 5,000 and service charge amounting 1,000, which are both debit memos, will also be added because they understate the bank balance in relation to the book balance. So 40,000 plus 5,000 plus 1,000 is equal to 46,000. Then 84,000 plus 46,000 will come up to total 130,000. Next, we will deduct the outstanding checks numbers 725 amounting 37,000 and number 726 amounting 28,000, which is a total of 65,000 outstanding checks. The notes collected by bank, which is a credit memo and a bank reconciling items, will also be deducted because it overstates the bank balance in relation to the book balance. So, ang note collected by bank, 15,000. So 65,000 plus 15,000, a total of 80,000. Then 130,000 galesan of 80,000, so mo nang balance per book na 50,000. So that's all for the book to bank and bank to book method. So let's proceed to the sum errors under correction. There are 4 adjustments in bank reconciliation. First is time differences. Second is transactions initiated by the bank. Third is transactions omitted by the company. Then fourth is the incorrect transactions recorded. To do a bank reconciliation, you would match the cash balances on the balance sheet to the determining the differences between the two in order to make changes to the accounting records, resolve any discrepancies, and identify fraudulent transactions. So here's the following illustration where the main points will be discussed. First example, for example, the collection from the customer which is deposited amounts to 10,000 but recorded in the book only as 1,000. Dili, ang depositor is nag-deposit of 10K. 10K. Sa bank balance, sakto ang pag-record. However, sa book balance, 1K raang na-record, which means nagkuwang or understatement of 9K. So para ma-reconcile, we will debit cash in bank 9K and credit accounts receivable 9K para matotal of 10K. Next example is a check and payment of account payable amounting to 20,000 is recorded in the book as 2,000. Sa second example, ang na-understatement o pag-record is ang bank balance. So to reconcile sa bank balance na mag-adjust. Maoning mag-debit og accounts payable 18K and 18,000 and credit tag cash in bank na 18,000. So third example is this is a deduction from the bank balance because it erroneously increased the account balance of the depositor and the bank. No adjustment is necessary on the book of the depositor. Dire, third understatement of check. So, dire, ang bank balance ang mag-adjust sa error since dili man maapektuhan ang book. To reconcile, mag-deduct tas amount nga na-add sa account ni depositor since dili man sa isa account should deposit. So next is this is an addition to the bank balance because it erroneously decreased the account balance of the depositor and the bank. No adjustment is necessary on the book of the depositor. Dire, why may tabo nga journal entries kay why ma-change sa book record? Mag-add ra sa bank balance kay narong siya og deduct sa depositor's accounts which is the error. So, that's all for my part. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hida. Now, let us continue the discussion. And this time, it will be about problem application of both book-to-bank and bank-to-book method. First, let us please welcome Ms. Denden Isaga for the problem application of book-to-bank method. A round of virtual applause, please.
Good evening, everyone. So now, we will apply what we have learned from the previous discussion about the book-to-bank method. Again, the book-to-bank method means that the book balance is adjusted to equal the bank balance. In this part, we will be having a problem application, how to do work back, and comprehensive problem and adjusting entries. So let's start. So we have here the information and we are required to know what is the adjusted cash in bank and what is the unadjusted cash in bank balance per bank statement. So, para makahibawan nato ang adjusted cash in bank and the unadjusted cash in bank balance per bank statement, we will be using the book-to-bank method, but before that, ato i-classify each account whether they are book or bank reconciling items for us to easily add and deduct them later on. So, mao ni siya ang information kaninga slide. So, the balance per book is a book reconciling item which is amounting to 1,010,000 pesos. The bank service charge is, again, a book reconciling items, debit memos, which is amounting to 13,000 pesos. Outstanding checks and deposit in transit are bank reconciling items. The customer note collected by the bank and interest on customer note are both credit memos and under book reconciling items. The customer check return or NSF no sufficient fund is book reconciling items, a debit memo, and as well as the notes payable charged to account. So naa naman ni kay na ta sa ilang classification whether book reconciling items ba sila credit memo or debit memo, maka-add na ta nila og dali and maka-add or deduct. So here is the formula. So now we will solve first for the adjusted cash in bank. By the way, later na nato i-add and deduct ang bank reconciling items i-work back. So atong gamiton first are the book reconciling items. And as a recap, the treatment for the book reconciling items are the same as they are treated in the adjusted balance method. The credit memos are added while the debit memos are deducted. So the balance per book is 1,010,000 pesos. So we're going to add the credit memos. So, di ba ang kaning credit memos, mo ni sila ang items that are not representing deposits and is credited by the bank to the account of the depositor but not yet recorded by the depositor as cash receipts. So, maong ato ni siyang i-add sa book balance. So, these are the customer note, 385,000 pesos, and the interest on customer note is 25,000 pesos. So, ato silang i-add ha. It will total to 410,000 pesos. And ato ni si Jang i-add sa balance per book. So, ang total niya is 1,420,000 pesos. So, guys, kaya di just itong dapit. And then, we're going to less the debit memos. Again, the debit memos are items not representing checks paid by bank which are charged or debited by the bank to the account of the depositor but not yet recorded by the depositor as cash disbursements, and it has the effects of decreasing the bank balance. So ato ni silang i-add sa balance per book. So these are the bank service charge amounting to 13,000, no sufficient fund or NSF 72,000, and notes payable 260,000. So ato ni silang i-add tulo, it will amount to 345,000 pesos. And then we're going to deduct it from 1,420,000 na total ganiha, and we will have our adjusted cash in bank 1,075,000. So next, now that we have the adjusted cash in bank, we will now solve for the unadjusted cash in bank balance per bank statement. So diri na tamag work back, wherein the treatment for the bank reconciling items are reversed. So di ba ang deposit in transit, i-add man ni siya sa formula sa bank, or the treatment will be added. But here, as you can see, i-add ang deposit in transit and less standing checks. But since we're going to work back, ato si Jang i-reverse. Ato nang i-add si outstanding checks from the adjusted cash in bank, and we're going to deduct the deposit in transit from the adjusted cash in bank. So the answer for the balance per bank, so ato na to si Jang i-add ang outstanding check and deduct the deposit in transit, we can get an balance per bank, an adjusted of 1,010,000 pesos. So let's have another problem. So Zodiac Company provided the following information. So we are required to prepare bank reconciliation on April 30 following the book-to-bank approach and prepare adjusting entries. So the balance per book for March 31 is 800,000 pesos. The cash receipts for April, 4,100,000 pesos. The cash disbursements for April, 3,800,000 pesos. The outstanding checks as of April 30 of which number 1333 had been certified. So kaning mga checks number 1331, ang na-certify na nila is the 1333. So dili na ni siya na to i-appeal ang 1333 later. And then ang kaning number 1333 nga certified, it means that the other outstanding checks 1331, 1332, 1334, and 1335 are already recorded by the depositor as cash disbursements but not yet reflected on the bank statement. So ang atong April debit memos are bank service charge amounting 5,000 pesos and NSF checks 25,000 pesos. And then for April credit memo, we have note collected by bank in the name of Zodiac Company, 60,000 pesos, and undeposited collection or deposit in transit, 270,000 pesos. And the balance per bank in April 30 is 1 million pesos. So, di ba ganiha sa first problem, nag-classify ita whether book reconciling items pa siya or bank reconciling items. But here, di na ta kay na-classify na sila daanan sa debit memos and the credit memo, deposit in transit, and outstanding checks. So, let's have first this. The balance per book on April 30 is 1,100,000 pesos. Di ba ang information nga naa ganiha is balance per book sa kinababuan, March 31. So, there is no per April 30. So, ang atong buhaton is sa balance per book para makahibawan nato ang balance per book sa April. We're going to add the cash receipts for April and deduct the cash disbursements for April. Kaning cash receipts for April, 4,100,000. And we're going to deduct the cash disbursements of April, 3,800,000. And then, i-add na to itong balance per book pagka March 31 nga 800,000. So, we can get 1,100,000. So, nanatay balance per book for April. We're going to add the credit memos, note collected, 60,000 pesos. The outstanding checks, ato na silang i-appeal ang bank reconciling items. Diba, reverse ang treatment sa bank reconciling items if we're going to do the book-to-bank method. So, dili na i-appeal na to ang check number 1333 because it was been certified na sa information ganina. So, ang ato lang i-add are the 40,000, 30,000, 60,000, and 10,000. So, 140,000 tanang outstanding checks. And then we're going to add this from the balance per book na 1,100,000 and the credit memo 60,000. You can get 1,300,000 pesos. So now we're going to deduct or less the debit memos for book reconciling items and the deposit in transit for bank reconciling items. So mo ni sila ang bank service charge and NSF check, ang debit memos 5,000, 25 and 25,000, and then the undeposited collections 270,000. I-deduct ni si Janato sa 1,300,000. Then we can get 1 million pesos balance per bank on April 30. Now let's move on to the adjusting entries. So kani siya ang mga mga accounts nga na kuan ni bank but what ning appear sa record ni company. So kaning notes receivable, so we're going to debit cash in bank kay taas man increase man ang asset ni depositor dito sa bank pero wa na reflect sa ijang record. So mo nang nag-cash in bank ta debit 60,000 and note receivable 60,000. Bali nakuha na ijang note receivable, so we're going to credit the note receivable. Then the second adjusting entries are the bank service charge 5,000 and the accounts receivable 25,000. So the credit is cash in bank 30,000. So nakuhaan ang cash ni company dito sa bank. So nag-credit ta og cash in bank nga 30,000. So lastly, we will solve the adjusted cash in bank by adding and deducting the credit memos and debit memos respectively. So, mao ni ang naa sa adjusting entries. So, ang balance per book nato for April 30 is 1,100,000. Then, we're going to add a credit memo note collected, 60,000. Then, less the bank service charge and the NSF check. So, we can get an adjusted cash in bank of 1,130,000. So, that's all for the problem application of book-to-bank method. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Isaga. Now for the back-to-book method problem application, let us please welcome our last but not the least speaker, Ms. Cristel Ejido. A round of virtual applause, please.
Hello, sophomores. Okay, patara. So, what lang taha kay in just a few minutes, we will reach the end of this webinar. I will be your last speaker. I am Cristel Ejido. The topic that I will be discuss is the problem application of the bank-to-book method. This time, I will discuss to you the comprehensive problem and just katong sa pareha kang Miss Isaga, the solving of the adjusted cash in bank. Bear with me for just a few minutes na lang kay we will be dealing with a lot of numbers in this problem. Okay? The first problem will be easy. It includes an error and requires a work-back approach to know the book balance. Here's the problem. In preparing the bank reconciliation for the month of October, Fairy Tale Company provided the following data. For the balance per bank statement, there is an amount of 3,810,000 for the deposit in transit, 530,000 amount erroneously credited by bank to Fairy Tale's account, 50,000. The proceeds of note collected by bank, 130,000. Bank service charge of 15,000 and NSF check of 60,000, and lastly, the outstanding checks of 685,000. And now we are required to know the adjusted cash in bank and the unadjusted cash in bank balance per book. Before we go on with the problem, let us first identify what entry is a book reconciling item and a bank reconciling item. This will make it easier for us to know what entry needs to be added or deducted to the balance per bank statement. First, the balance per bank statement. This is a bank reconciling item. Deposit in transit, also a bank reconciling item. Amount erroneously credited by bank to Fairy Tale's account. This is also a bank reconciling item. Now, this is an error. As discussed by Mr. Hida, an error is the reconciling item of the party who committed it. The entry states amount erroneously credited by bank. So, si bank ang ni-commit sa error. So ang kaning amount erroneously credited by bank is a bank reconciling item. So remember guys that we should be watchful of the errors. Next, note collected by bank. This is a credit memo which is already recorded by the bank but not recorded in the depositor's book. Thus, it is a book reconciling item. Bank service charge, this is a book reconciling item. A debit memo, which makes it a book reconciling item. Next one is the NSF checks, also a debit memo, making it a book reconciling item. And last one is the outstanding checks. This is a bank reconciling item. Great, now that we are done with identifying what entry is a bank reconciling item or a book reconciling item, we can now proceed to solve the first requirement, and that is, what is the unadjusted cash in bank? First, we'll start with the balance per bank, and that is 3,810,000. Since we started our entry with the bank statement, we'll have to look for entries which are bank reconciling item. First one is the deposit in transit. This will be added to the bank statement. This an amount of 530,000. Next is a bank reconciling item is the error committed by the bank. It will be deducted to the bank statement for they have erroneously credited the Fairtail's account. This means that someone's deposit is added to Fairtail's account, thus increasing the company's balance. There is an overstatement to its balance, thus the amount of 50,000 will be deducted. Another one is the outstanding checks of 685,000. These are cash disbursements which are already recorded by the book but not yet reflected to the bank statement. Thus, it will be deducted. Now, this is all the bank reconciling items. And let us now compute the adjusted cash in bank. 3,810,000 plus 530,000 minus 50,000 and minus 685,000. Now we come to the total of adjusted cash in bank, 3,605,000. Now we have the adjusted cash in bank. For the second requirement, we'll next solve the unadjusted balance per book. You may have already noticed that there is no balance per book stated in the problem. That is why we solve first the adjusted cash in bank so we can do a workback approach to know the adjusted balance per book. Maybe you have already encountered this approach, the workback approach. First, we have the adjusted cash in bank of 3,605,000. We will start here para mag-workback na tapa doong taas. So, from what we have for business solve on is job. Now, we'll include in the computation the book reconciling items. First are the debit memos, which are the NSF checks of 60,000 and a bank service charge of 15,000. And the last remaining item is the note collected by bank, which is 130,000. Usually, debit memos are deducted to the book balance and the credit memos are added. But since we are conducting a workback, we'll have to add the debit memos in the adjusted cash in bank and deduct the note collected by the bank. And that is 3,605,000 minus 60,000 plus 60,000 plus 15,000 minus 130,000. Now we have solved the balance per book or the unadjusted balance per book, which is 3,550,000. To check if this is the correct answer, let's follow the normal approach. We add the amount of 130,000 and deduct the bank service charge of 15,000, the NSF checks of 60,000, and we will have the answer of adjusted cash in bank of 3,605,000. And we can see that this is a correct answer for they have came up to the same amount. That's it for the first problem. We'll have one last problem, and this will be a comprehensive problem which also requires adjusting entries. For the second problem, we will solve the balance per book, its corresponding adjusting entries, and the adjusted book balance. The problem reads, Solo Leveling Company provided the following data for the month of October. A balance per bank statement of October 31, 3,500,000. Collections on October 31 but undeposited, 550,000. NSF check received from a customer returned by the bank on September 5 with the October bank statement, 50,000. Checks outstanding on October 31, 650,000. Bank debit memo for safety deposit box, rental not recorded by depositor, 5,000. A creditor's check for 30,000 was incorrectly recorded in the depositor's book as 300,000. A customer's check for 200,000 was recorded by the depositor as 20,000. The depositors, and lastly, the depositor neglected to make an entry in its book for a check drawn in payment of an account payable, which is 125,000. Now we are required to compute the balance in the cash account before corrections and prepare adjusting entries. We'll start with the balance per bank, which is 3,500,000. Now let us determine what should be added. First, the collections on October 31 but was undeposited, which is 550,000. This is a deposit in transit, and since it is a bank reconciling item, it will be treated as in its usual manner as they are treated in the adjusted balance method, as discussed in the Bank Recon Part 1. Thus, it will be added. Next is the NSF check, which is 50,000. This is where we can apply the reversal rule discussed by Ms. Dumalay. Since debit memos are deducted in the book balance, it will now be added in the bank balance. Also, this is a debit memo, a book reconciling item which already decreased the bank balance but yet to have been recorded in the book balance. It is now added because the bank balance is understated in relation to the book balance. Next one is the checks outstanding of Next one is the checks outstanding of 650,000. Outstanding checks are bank reconciling items, thus they will be treated in the usual manner as they were in the adjusted balance method. Thus, the outstanding checks will be deducted. Fourth one will be the bank debit memo with an amount of 5,000. Again, in the reversal rule, since debit memos are deducted in the book balance, it will now be added on the bank balance. Next will be the creditor's check, which is an outstanding check of 30,000. It was incorrectly recorded in the depositor's book as 300,000. There is a difference of 270,000 computed from 300,000 minus 30,000. We can see that there is an overstatement in the creditor's check of 270,000. This amount will be deducted in the balance per bank to reconcile with the book balance. Next is the customer's check. A customer check is a credit memo. In the reversal rule, credit memos are deducted for they have already been recorded in the bank. So if ato si Jang i-add, ma-overstate na ang bank balance. So mo nang i-ato si Jang i-deduct. Kay sakto naman ang pag-record sa bank pero wala si Jang record sa book. Now the last one would be the unrecorded check with an amount of 125,000. It is said in the problem that the depositor neglected to make an entry on its book. Thus, the cash balance recorded in the bank is understated in relation to the book balance since the check was not recorded in the book. So, we'll add the amount of we'll deduct the amount of 180 to the balance per bank to reconcile with the book balance. Now, we are done with determining whether the entries need to be added or deducted. So, mo na niya ang ijang computation. Balance per bank of 3,500,000 plus undeposited collections of 550,000, NSF check of 50,000, debit memos for safety deposit of 5,000, unrecorded check of 125,000, which totals to 730,000, which will be added to the amount of 3,500,000. We will come up with the answer of 4,230,000. Next, we'll deduct the checks outstanding, which is 650,000, overstatement of the creditor's check of 270,000, and the understatement of the customer's check of 180,000, a total of 1,100,000, which will be deducted to the amount of 4,230,000. We now have the balance per book of 3,130,000. Excellent! Now that we have solved the balance per book, let's proceed to the adjusting entries. A cash in bank of 450,000 is debited. It represents an increase in the cash in bank of the company. An accounts payable is credited for the entry of the creditor's check, which was recorded as 300,000, which is when it is only meant for the amount of 30,000. Thus, the company has an amount to be added back to its total cash in bank. That is why it is reflected in the cash in bank, which is 450,000. An accounts receivable of 180,000 is credited. This represents the amount already received by the depositor, which was erroneously not included in the record, for it was supposed to be a total of 200,000, but the amount recorded by the depositor was 20,000. Next, the NSF check are debited as accounts receivable, for it was returned by the bank. Thus, the company still has a receivable of 50,000 from its customer. The next one is the bank service charge. It is debited for the company's cash in bank was decreased due to the payment of 5,000 to the bank for its service. And account payable of 125,000 is debited, for there is a decrease of the cash in bank of the company due to its drawn check for payment. And a total of 180,000 is credited in the cash in bank. This represents the total decreased amount of the company's cash in bank. And that's it for the adjusting entries. Let's continue on to solve the adjusted book balance. This part I will discuss it to you briefly because it was already discussed in the bank recon part 1. First, we'll start with the book balance, and that is 3,130,000. After it, we will add the overstatement of the creditor's check of 270,000, and then add the understatement of the customer's check of 180,000. The outstanding check is no longer included in this method because since this method is the adjusted balance method. We have a total of 3,580,000. Next, we'll deduct the NSF check of 50,000, the debit memos for safety box, which is 5,000, and the unrecorded check of 125,000 we have. And also, the deposit in transit is no longer included in this computation because this is the adjusted balance method approach. Now, we have the adjusted book balance of 3,400,000. That is for the computation of the adjusted balance method. That's it for the problem application of the bank-to-book method. Hope you learned something from our very first virtual meeting, sophomores. Thank you very much and waiting.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ejido. Since it is the last part, it is now time for the open forum. Any questions from you, sophomores? If you do have, you can comment it in the chat box. For this, let us please welcome again Ms. Cristel Ejido and Ms. Cicely Briar-Rose Dumalay. A round of virtual applause, please.
Now, for the first question. Is it mandatory to prepare a bank reconciliation statement? What are the reasons for the differences between the balance of the bank statement and the bank column of the cash book? So, Ms. Briar will answer this question.
So, the answer for the question is the bank reconciliation statement is not mandatory or compulsory to prepare. So there is no fixed date for preparing the bank reconciliation statement. It is prepared on periodical basis for checking that bank-related transactions are recorded properly in the cash books, bank column, and also by the bank in their books. The bank reconciliation statement helps to detect errors in recording transactions and determining the exact bank balance as on specified date. So, for the second question, we have what are the reasons for the differences in the balance of the bank statement and the bank column of the cash book. So there are, as we all know, the bank balance and the book balance has the reconciling items. So these credit memos and debit memos, errors, outstanding checks, deposit in transits, and errors for the bank are the reasons why there are differences in the balances, or I mean between the balances of the bank and book. So, mo to siya ang answer.
Okay, now for the second question. What are the techniques to make bank reconciliation easier? There is no concrete technique to make the process of bank reconciliation easier. What ang ma-advise na mo is, as also an accounting student, just remember the reconciling items of the book and bank. Also understand their nature because it is very important kay na uban nato dali ra malipat, diba? Even kami 4th year na may pero malipat gihapon may. Especially ang errors, you have to be watchful of the errors. As I have said earlier nga dapat imong tan-aw of kung kinsa ning commit sa errors para makibaw ka asa ni si Jayad, or maadyo ba ni si Jayad, or mas maadyo kuan ba ni si Jay, i-deduct ba ni si Jay nga error. Also remember the reversal method nga gidiscuss ni Ms. Dumalay. Kay if imong gamiton ang book to bank method or the bank to book method, the reconciling items are reversed. That's why diha po ta kasagaran malipat kay imbis ang credit memos nga dapat i-add ma-deduct nato tungod ra pud sa reversal rule nga mura pug maumaora pero reverse malagi siya. So we'll have to be cautious about the reversal rule. Also, familiarize the formula. Familiarize the formula. Kay mao na ang guide for you to do the bank reconciliation easier. Kay na naman kay formula, you just have to follow that formula. Also, another important note is the way we have solved the first problem earlier, gidefine nato kung unsa ang bank reconciling items, unsa ang book reconciling items. Buhaton ni nato para makahibaw ta dadyon, or it will make easier for us to solve asa ang mga ipang-add, ipang-deduct, dili na ta dali malipat kay we have already identified naman ang mga entries. So, maora to. As I have said, there is no concrete technique to make the process of bank reconciliation easier. You just have to remember the important details on how to conduct a bank reconciliation. Thank you. For the third question, does bank reconciliation has a big impact in the company of running a business?
So the answer for this question is bank reconciliation is an important task for any company. So for small businesses and so the main goal of reconciling your bank statement is to ensure that the recorded balance of your business and the recorded balance of the bank match up. So it also helps you manage and monitor your cash flow. So that's all.
Okay, and for the fourth question, as a speaker, was there any information that was hard to explain? Okay, I will first answer my part. As a speaker, adto ko naglisod sa error, pag-explain sa error kay before in our preparation process also amo madjud gistudihan ang among report. Samtang nag-study mi, nakalimot naman gajud mi sa among mga nahibawan sa una kay second year pa malagi ni namo, and karon pa na na-recall og balik, nagsigi ko kalipat sa error. So mao lagi to, balik ko na ho, you have to be watchful of the errors. Kay bisan ako nga speaker nga imbis ning report ninyo, nalipat gihapon sa mga error. So that would be all for my part as a speaker.
So sa ako pong part is katong reversal rule. So malipat jud ta kay ang atong naandan is ang adjusted method. So sa bank to book and book to bank na may mga reversal. So dito murag lisod siya murag mag tricky siya kaadyo kay maang katong mga i-add i-deduct naman sa book to bank and bank to book. So nanay mga reversal.
And for the last question, nga mo nakuha sa registration form, marag ko anis dya. Personal question. Emotional question. What are your motivation to the sophomores who is suffering from online class since freshman years and don't have a proper foundation of their knowledge? Okay. Sa hammer, personal ni Gumay. For my part, I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm also a student, but as you have said sa katong question nga kamo jud sophomores as in gikan pagajud pag first year, you have already experienced the online class. I know it's very difficult. Samot na kay ang atong course difficult jud pod. Ako lang maingon ninyo is when you're tired, you have to rest. You don't forget to rest kay I know stressful jud na kaadyo, and if dili nimo ipahuway mo kagalingon imong huna-huna, madrain ka. Although wa kay gibuhat, sige ra ka huna-huna, madrain gihapon ka. Learn to rest. Don't pressure yourself nga makisabay ka sa uban nga may kahala nindot lagi siya kay nakaget siya ani nga topic yun sa na niya sige siguro jag study, sige siguro jag attend og sa mga webinar nga maka-learn siya. Just go with your pace, but pero set limit on yourself pod nga basig Muyan ka nga, I will just go with my pace, di ko mag-stress, pero higda or day pod ka. Know your limits. Familiarize yourself kung asa ra ka kutob. Ani diha ka kutob, iti ka po'y nakadiha nga part pahuway. Inagumani mo pahuway, continue. And also, life goes on. From my favorite artist, isa naka-familiar dira, life goes on. So you just have to continue. If you're tired, don't think of giving up. Padayon. And if in the middle of your pag accountancy maka-realize ka nga naglisod ka ani nga course, it's not bad man pod nga mo may tataglain nga field para nato kay bas di na mao ang gitugon sa Ginoo para nimo. So just remember that part. Thank you.
O unsang gani inyong kalisdanan nga na experience karon, sure ko nga kaya jud na ninyo. Kay kami mo gani feel na mo jud kinonhan. Murag unsa man mo gisod nga field oy, pero kaluyan sa Ginoo nakaabot ra gyapon mi sa ingani nga stage. So laban ra jud guys, power CPNs kay hingsod mo ani kay ba ko nga kaya ninyo.
Power.
Tingog sa mo guys, power mo diha.
Power.
Power clap kuno guys.
Go.
Power!
Thank you, Miss Ihido and Miss Dumalay. Now we can adjourn the webinar by a prayer. Please do spare a moment of silence.
Heavenly Father, as we come to the end of our time together, we thank you for what has been accomplished here today at this webinar. May the matters discussed serve as a catalyst to move us forward and cause us to advance and see growth in all areas of our lives. May we leave here recognizing you are the God of all wisdom and you are willing to lead us forward. This we pray in the name of the Lord Jesus. Amen.
Thank you po, ate.
Okay.
Thank you po, mga ate.
So finally, it's a wrap, guys. This has been your moderator, Miss Mara Isaga, with my buddies, Mr. Hida, Miss Dumalay, Miss Denden Isaga, and Miss Ihido. Thank you so much again, guys. Goodbye and good night.
Goodbye. I already sent the evaluation sheet.